An emergency unfolded in public view, and what happened after may be just as important as what led up to it. A woman was critically injured during a federal law enforcement operation. Moments later, a bystander stepped forward, identified himself as a physician, and asked a simple question: "Can I check a pulse?" The answer he received wasn't medical, it wasn't procedural, and it's now at the center of a growing national conversation. What actually happened in those seconds, and why local leaders are challenging the official explanation, is still unfolding, and the video raises a question that goes far beyond one incident. Glavny dio. The moment that changed everything. The publicly available video begins after the most chaotic part of the incident had already passed. A vehicle had come to a stop after colliding with another parked car. Several federal agents were on scene. The situation appeared tense but contained. Then, something unexpected happened. A man stepped closer and calmly asked if he could check the woman inside the vehicle. He identified himself as a physician, someone trained to assess medical emergencies. Instead of being allowed to approach, he was told to step back. When he repeated that he was a doctor, one response stood out on the recording: "I don't care." According to the video, emergency medical responders had not yet begun treatment during those moments. That brief exchange, less than a minute long, is now being closely examined by journalists, officials, and the public alike. And it's not just about what was said, but what it suggests. Who was the woman involved? Authorities later identified the woman as Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3. Friends and family describe her as compassionate, devoted, and deeply involved in caring for others. Her mother told local media that Renee had spent much of her life helping people, both personally and professionally. This human context matters, because while official statements focus on procedures and protocols, communities often focus on impact and loss. And that difference in perspective is where much of the tension now lies. The official explanation and the pushback. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the agent involved acted in self-defense, claiming the vehicle was being used in a threatening manner. That explanation, however, has been publicly disputed by local leaders. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, after reviewing available footage, stated at a press conference that he strongly disagreed with the characterization of the incident. His remarks stopped short of assigning legal blame, but they did something else. They challenged the narrative before it fully settled. And that matters, because in situations like this, early narratives often shape public understanding long before investigations are complete. So now, multiple versions of the same event are circulating at once. Why the doctor's request matters. Here's where this story shifts from a single incident to a broader issue. In emergency situations, time is critical. Even basic assessments, checking responsiveness, monitoring breathing, can provide essential information while waiting for EMS. The video does not show treatment being administered during the brief window it captures. Officials have stated that medical personnel were on the way and that agents had their own trained responders. But the optics and the audio tell a different story to many viewers. A trained medical professional asking to help, a refusal, and visible frustration from neighbors witnessing it unfold. Whether the decision was based on protocol, safety concerns, or something else entirely is still unclear. But the moment resonated, because it raises a fundamental question. In high-risk law enforcement operations, where does medical care fit in, and who gets to decide? The role of video in public accountability. Just a decade ago, this moment might have existed only in written reports. Today, a 32-second clip can travel nationwide within hours. Video doesn't provide full context, but it does provide shared evidence. And once people see the same footage, the conversation changes. That's why officials on all sides are now being careful with language, emphasizing that investigations are ongoing and facts are still being reviewed. Because once a video enters the public sphere, it becomes part of the accountability process, whether institutions are ready for it or not. What we know and what we don't. At this stage, several things are clear. A federal agent discharged a weapon during an operation. A woman later died from her injuries. A bystander identifying as a doctor was denied access. Local and federal authorities disagree on how to characterize the incident. What remains unclear is just as important. What protocols were in effect at that exact moment? Why outside medical assistance? Whether different decisions could have changed the outcome, and how this incident will influence future policy or training. These are questions investigators, not social media, are tasked with answering. Why this story isn't going away. This isn't just about one city or one agency. It touches on several ongoing national conversations at once. The use of force during law enforcement operations, transparency when incidents involve federal agencies, the balance between scene control and medical urgency, and the role of civilians who step in to help stories like this persist because they sit at the intersection of policy, humanity, and trust. And once trust is questioned, rebuilding it takes more than a statement. Outro. As investigations continue, one thing is already clear. This moment has forced a closer look at how emergencies are handled when authority, urgency, and human life collide. Not through speculation, but through what was seen, heard, and recorded.